Season 2, Episode 6. Finding your voice and maybe your genre too. Hello and welcome to How to Survive Until You're Published, the podcast. Because if you're drowning in words, then so are we. And you might as well not do it alone.
So today we want to talk about voice, finding your voice, choosing your POV for your characters, and just choosing your genre. So we'll start off with the genres we like to write. Amy.
So, yeah, fantasy, romance, and maybe one day contemporary romance, but we'll see. That's cool. What I used to write when I was in high school.
Awesome. And I like to write horror and dark fantasy. And I will preface this, and I put this on my Instagram, that we should go back to using the definition of what dark fantasy actually is, because a lot of people hear, oh, dark fantasy, and they're like, oh, it means spicy and dark. No. That's dark romance. Dark fantasy refers more to like heavier themes in your writing and just kind of like a darker plot and darker problems that your characters are dealing with. And I have played around with potentially maybe doing like fairy tale retellings eventually, because that sounds super fun.
He's so fun.
Yeah. Okay. So next question. How did you choose that genre?
So, I mean, for me, when I started writing, I've learned I'm a very deep reader. Mm-hmm. Like, I get very deeply involved in the books that I read, and I remember reading, different books and kind of getting like different aspects that I liked from different books. And I was like, I just want to write a story that has it all. Like, all the good stuff. And I mean, like, most books have that. Yeah. And who knows if I'll ever get there. But, I kind of wanted to write one that all in one package that has good adventure, good humor, good romance, and, like, riveting characters that you just love. And so right now, I mean, for the way that I write and the way that my brain works, young adult is what's working for me. But, I mean, I could also see myself going other directions too, and that's kind of a cool thought.
It definitely is.
As like I season myself as an author, and get a little better, I could definitely explore middle grade maybe.
I could really see you doing that.
or contemporary, or I mean I could maybe write a horror novel. That'd be cool. You know? So I don't know. But yeah, that's mostly for me.
I'll kind of bounce off of that a little bit, because I did recently switch genres, because I did like writing YA fantasy or sci-fi, but it was really hard for me. And I think that's when I realized that maybe this wasn't what I was supposed to be writing. It's just like the stories that I wanted to tell now didn't quite fit that genre, and it was just very hard to get the words on the page and to like make the plot structure work and just make my characters work with the story. Like, I was trying to shove adult characters into a coming of age story, and I'm like, no, they know who they are, that they're dealing with like the real world adult problems, and that's more what I wanted to focus on in my themes. And I also just realized that I read a lot more adult, and so just like what I enjoyed reading and the content I was consuming and the content that was inspiring my work was adult, and to try and like shove that into a YA story was hard. Maybe one day I'll return to YA, but we'll see,
I feel like that's like a super important thing, is to think about what you enjoy reading, like what's kind of your comfort zone. And like YA, and I'll be honest, some middle grade is definitely my comfort zone.
And I think that's totally fine. Like, know what your comfort zone is, and like what you like out of a story, and kind of like you said, what you want to bundle up in one package for readers, because you want to write the story you want to read, because you are going to read it a million times. That is a joke out there, but it's true. I think one day I'll revisit some of my other ideas and novels and see if I can work them into my current genre and stuff, but we'll see. We'll see with that. But how did you choose your voice, or like how did you develop your voice, I think is our next question.
Oh man, so choosing my voice, there was a series I read that had like the most sarcastic and hilarious voice, like main character voice, and I just loved it. I just soaked it up because I thought it was so funny, and I was like, I want my books to be like that, because like I grew up in a very like sarcastic, humorous family, like dry humor family, and it was like a competition to like get good at it, to get good at that kind of humor. And so I've always like loved that kind of feel. As I've kind of like matured a little bit as a writer, I've kind of found that yes, I do want to keep some of those aspects a little bit, but I also want my voice to fit my my genre, my world, my audience, and just like my characters as well. Like I want it to just kind of fit, and I could pull some of that humor a little bit, but you also want to stay true to what story you're trying to tell.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. I think developing your voice just comes with writing a lot too. Just write. We did have a guest talk a little bit about this last season when he was also talking about critique groups, Jason June. So if you want to look up his episode and his thoughts on voice.
It was a good episode.
It was, and I don't know if I could like actually phrase any of it better than he did when it comes to advice on voice. But yeah, thinking about the stories you want to tell, the world it's in, that's a huge thing. Like making sure the story you want to fits with and your voice fits with the vibe in your head. So like in my head, I wanted my story, my voice, and my writing to come across like more grim, grittier, and have more of that. What is it? I can't say the word. Why can't I think of it? This macabre like factor.
Is that the word?
Yeah, it's just like it's darker, you know.
Yeah.
But which I do think I'm achieving more now than I was. But yeah.
So kind of returning back to like our original question, so like how do you discover and develop that voice and that genre that you're trying to choose?
We did kind of answer it like just writing. So maybe like writing in different genres for me. The big thing was I realized when I took a break, I was like forced to take a break, that the critique group, like I would get frustrated with the critique I was receiving because the genre our group was in was like steering me towards that genre, but it didn't actually fit with what was in my head. So you guys were giving me great advice on how to make this like excellent YA high story, and that's what I'd asked you to do. But in my head, I was like, but this isn't my story. Yeah. And I was getting frustrated. We're like, oh, they're not seeing how I want it to fit here. But I think it's because I was asking you guys to approach it from a YA angle. And it never even occurred to me that maybe it's because my voice isn't YA. And maybe I should just like be writing, like my voice is different. And my genre I need to write in is different, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of that's part of the writer's journey, is that you've got to kind of figure out what fits for you, like what you want to say. So like for me personally, it took me a little bit to realize that like I want to teach like deep spiritual themes in my novels, and I want to point it toward the youth in a way that can be helpful for them, and that happens through character-driven novels, like, and that's what fits for me, and that's what I want to do. And so it's like you got to kind of figure out what you want out of your writing career as a goal in general, and just what fits you as a writer, like what you feel comfortable with, what you like writing,
what makes you excited to write,
what makes you excited to write, and like see if it fits a different genre than you think it does, you know, because it totally might.
Yeah, it's true. So switching on to the next topic in question then, is once you've figured out your voice and genre, how do you choose the POV for your stories?
So yeah, for me, I've always written first, just because I'm character driven. I
think it helps you get into deep POV a little bit more.
Yeah, just kind of like in the head, because I'm always like trying to be like, okay, I'm on the street, what am I looking at, turn to the left, turn to the right, kind of thing. And it just helps you kind of get right in there. I did realize, this is kind of funny, that when I'm pantsing test scenes, when I'm like pantsing a little bit, I'll write first person present tense.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it's like super helpful for me, kind of like I think Hunger Games is third person present tense, but it's the present tense that like helps me to know, like,
Hunger Games is first person.
Is
Cats, yeah.
Oh, okay. Anyway, but I kind of thought that was interesting for me, because it helps me just get right into the head. And I've always wanted to like have some sarcastic comments, like, internally, and that's easier to come across.
It's fair. The internal dialogue is
from first person. Yeah. So that just kind of is always what I've been most comfortable with.
That makes sense. this is something I'm struggling with, trying to figure out, because I think it does also depend on the book for me. I have always written in third person. I think part of it, it's just like an extra shield, because when you write, you are putting a piece of your soul onto that page, you know. Even if the characters are completely different than you, like, it is still a part of you, and that is really scary to then like throw out to people, you know. So sometimes I feel like by writing in third person, it shields just a little bit of that. And it's not as raw. But I think I'm debating, this is where I have a struggle with my current work in progress, is I have started writing from a specific POV in first person, and I'm wondering if I should switch the other POV to first instead of third as well, to get like a stronger voice. But I don't know, because third person also might be the way to tell it. But I think it does depend on, like, is having that internal dialogue and those sarcastic comments really important for your writing style?
And your tone.
Or, like, do you want to kind of be, and this is probably why I'll lean towards third person, I want to be able to point out the things moving in the background that the character might not be seeing.
Yeah, that's huge. And then just the comment on deep POV. So deep POV is like when it's like what do you call it? Like cinema version, where you're like literally looking at and seeing everything that the character is seeing in real time.
Yeah. So instead of I heard this, it's coyotes howled. You know, it helps you write a little bit more active, and it pulls your reader in a bit. Hunger Games is actually an excellent example of this. But instead of saying like I heard, she looked, or I looked, it's blue sky. You know, it's just diving right into what you're seeing, because of course we know the character's seeing this, or we know they're hearing that. It's like sirens blared in the background, like you hear it. Not I heard sirens blaring in the background. It's just that extra little layer that could pull you from the story, taking it out. So, and that could be a good tool too to kind of help you figure out a little bit what's more comfortable, because I think it can be done in third person. It can be. You just got to think about it a little bit.
And so it can help you see if that's something that can just give you another way to break through, to see if that will fit better, you know, whichever novel character you're trying to write, which one will fit better. So
I would agree. So our challenge for you, I would challenge you to pick 3 random genres and write test scenes in each of them, just to try out different genres, and it might help you figure out your voice a little bit more. If you're trying to write like a comedy, right, it's gonna, maybe you'll find that that's the style you want to write in, or maybe you do want to do something a little bit darker or grimmer. But right, it doesn't have to be the same scene, but 3 scenes from 3 different genres.
Make sure to check us out on Instagram. We are tag name A Writer's Survival Guide, and our website is awriterssurvivalguide.com. We're also on Facebook and YouTube as How to Survive Until You're Published. So check us out on there, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.